Stu, Tristan, congrats on the win. Stu, there was plenty of positive signs. What's the major takeaway for you that you are really pleased with?
I thought we had a great week of practice. It was very purposeful in what we wanted to do, and we really wanted to come out defensively with like a real edge tonight, like at the start of the game, just from a pressure standpoint, put them on their heels, and then just try not to have a let up from there.
Tristan, that's exactly what happened last week. Wasn't the case, but obviously you put in a good week of training and you've come out and you've delivered. I guess for you, mate, what's your mindset? You're trying to make your mark in this league and you've done a good job so far. What's on the mind for you, mate?
I guess just playing as hard as I can every single possession, really honing in on playing every possession, as hard as I can, especially defensively, because, in this league, if you can defend, you're going to get more opportunity. Offense will come with time, and, it's just, all about defense for me and trying to pressure the ball as hard as I can and, be accountable to the scout and things like that. So, yeah.
Did you grow up as an offensive player or a defensive player? What was your mindset as just like a young junior?
I think when I was really young, probably more offensive minded. When I started making the state teams and stuff like that, probably more a defensive role. And since then, continuing to grow my offensive game, but I feel like I really, try and hone in on defense and, make that a standpoint for me.
Tristan, you're starting. It seems like your confidence is growing every single game. 2-hand slam tonight. How has your confidence just been able to continue to evolve?
I think just the trust in the guys, and Stu talking to me and, Vandy and D-Mac as well. Everyone's, showing that they really trust me, and I think that gives me a lot of confidence. And then, just being, as tough as I can defensively, and I think that gives me a lot of confidence on the offensive end. And, it's really credit to the guys for, giving me that trust.
Do you ever get any nerves with the tough defensive assignments that you have every night?
A little bit, but I'm starting to get pretty used to getting some of the tougher guards. So it's, but I enjoy it. It's a good challenge, and if I look at it as a challenge, then I don't get too nervous. So yeah.
Coach, I think one of the proudest stats that I would think that you would love is 42 rebounds tonight. You had 12 more than the Taipans. How great was that to see from your team?
Yeah, rebounding was one of the top things on the board, tonight. We let that affect us in the Southeast game, so to bounce back, we rolled up our sleeves in practice this week and did some old school box out drills and, just really put a point of emphasis, on the possession game. And we have 21 assists, 8 turnovers as well, so that's a big metric, for us. Really pleased around that. Casey has 10 boards himself, and we limit them to 9 offensive rebounds. So they're a good offensive rebounding team. So it's definitely a point of emphasis for us. So really pleased.
It seemed like there was a switch at halftime. Went from the first half going back and forth, 2-point game, up and down, to second half dominance. What was the message at halftime that you gave your team?
Yeah, it was, just stick with what we were doing. We were really confident in the game plan. There's never really any overreaction from us as a staff to the guys. Really confident in our preparation, and we just felt if we keep applying the defensive pressure, play with pace, we felt like we were going to wear them down. While we have some injuries, they certainly do too. They're going through a lot, on their end. Shout out to our high performance staff, for getting guys ready this, last week or two. We've had a lot of travel, so just to be home all week and knowing we got a double game, but we weren't getting on a plane, this week, and guys are getting their recovery and, putting the time in with Sando and Corvo and Birdie and just everything that goes into that. I think that had a big effect on us, and we were able to keep the minutes, relatively spread. Nobody really plays over 30 tonight, so certainly a big game coming up on Saturday. So that was we felt if we can get after these guys early, build ourselves a little cushion, and try to watch the minutes, because we've been playing guys heavy minutes with short numbers. That was something we were looking at.
Just last question: 6 players in double figures, and what a debut from Dakota.
Yeah.
Lighting it up from deep, doing a little bit of everything. How happy were you with today's offense?
Yeah, really. Again, the 21 assists, is a big one. Jalen has 7, but Casey has 3, Dukas has 3, Dakota has 2. When we move the ball and we shift the defense, that's when I think we can be dangerous, and that's not even mentioning the big fella inside who just can create so much advantages for us if we play inside than outside. And then once that ball moves and starts popping a little bit, I think we can be dangerous offensively.
Tristan, what are your aspirations in the league? Like, do you see yourself becoming like a bit of an elite two-way guard?
100%.
How much do you think about that, man?
Yeah, I think still developing my point guard skills, bringing the ball up under pressure and things like that. That's been a real focus since I've been coming into the lineup. But yeah, definitely like two-way is the goal, and I think trying to be one of the fittest guys on the team is going to allow me to do that, because then I can play as hard as I can for a long time. Being a two-way guard is definitely a goal of mine, and I think I'm starting to slowly understand playing at a slower pace and things like that. But the coaches are helping me every single day, breaking down the film and stuff like that. So yeah, I really trust them to help me get there.
And he's plus 22 tonight, and you go back over the last 6 games or so, like his plus minus has got to be up there, some of the best in the league right now. Like, it's really impressive, and it doesn't always show like with the points and whatnot, but what he's doing defensively and the pace that he's given us, that is a metric that I've noticed, probably going back to like almost our Tassie game at home.
Coach, would you rather a player that doesn't show the urgency and doesn't allow a foul, or Tristan, for example, a few times in the last, say, month, he's given the foul, but you can tell he's being intent with his defense? Like, what would you rather in a player?
Yeah, I mean, you want the effort there, and I think as Tristan continues to learn the personnel in the league and the flow of the game, maybe the refs learning who Tristan is, as well, and like where you can get away with certain things from a physicality standpoint. I think that's just part of like his development, but I don't want him to change, the way he goes about it. And, you want guys to be able to get up into guys and be physical and be disruptive, cause that disruption.
Tristan, mate, the imports that you've got at the club this year, they're very high potential when it all gets clicking. Sort of for the past month, maybe it hasn't been clicking to the level that the team's been wanting it to, but tonight we did see Murray explode, very efficient, and Dukas also just lacing the threes. How dangerous do you think the team can be when it all starts to click together? I see a bit more tonight. So.
Super dangerous, and I think it's pretty obvious. Like when we really hone in on moving the ball, like there's so many dangerous options on this team. So, we move the ball, we find guys that we want to get into certain spots, like Tyrell, Casey. That only benefits everyone else, because it's gonna shrink the defense, and then it's going to just open opportunities for everyone else. So I think we saw that tonight. Like, we were really aggressive on, getting Ty into the post, getting Casey the ball on the post, and that only opened everyone else up. So, the ball's going to drop at some point, and it did tonight, so that was good.
And just lastly for me, like the connection as well, I saw between Adams and Harrison. I feel like if that connection can continue to grow, you guys could really be anything. Do you agree? And do you like what you're seeing from Adams as far as his pass-first mentality?
100%. Jalen's one of the best pick-and-roll players in the league, and then Tyrell's one of the best centers in the league. So, it's something that's going to be really good for us and beneficial. And like I said, Jalen knowing when to kick out and when to go for his own and score, I think is, huge for us, and it's only going to get better with time. And, he's a really good dude as well, so it's really good to play with him.
Sweet. We just got Chris Park online.
Yeah, I'll just be quick, guys. I'll start with you, Tristan. You've talked about some of the guards that you've had the challenge of playing up against so far this season, and you look ahead to Saturday, and I'm sure Delhi is somebody that you've looked up to growing up, so you get to play against him, and then also, we know how good Kendrick is. You'll be pretty excited already for Saturday. Yeah, definitely.
It's going to be a good challenge again, and putting nerves aside, I think seeing it as a good challenge is going to be beneficial for me, and we just get to scout, trust the coaches, and what they want me to do on them, and I'm looking forward to it.
And Stu, you touched on the offense, but I felt like it was the best the offenses looked because you were able to play and score in different ways. You did make full use of Tyrell inside, and you mentioned plus minus. I mean, he was plus 34, but you score in different ways. So you scored inside, you could score mid-range, and then your three-point shooting was a lot better tonight as well. So it just looked like you had a lot of avenues to score.
Yeah, but again, Chris, it helps when you're not taking the ball out of the basket. So when we can get stops and we can play with a little bit of pace, get into our actions like purposeful, then we're confident we can get the type of looks that we want. So, like, I'll always go back to the defensive end, and I tell these guys all the time, like, if you can get stops and we can rebound and get out and play, you all own the offense. Like, we're not going to call plays every single time, from the sidelines. Like, they own the huddles, they figure out what they want to run. We go into a game plan. We go into a game with scripted action that we think will work well against our opponent, and we want to give these guys freedom to go out and figure it out.
It's difficult to ask you to put yourself in the mind of a player, but do you feel like Jalen will really set himself for Saturday, his first time up against his former team?
Yeah, I'm sure he's ready. Like, he won't say much, about it, but he's a competitor, and he knows who's coming to town. And I think today was the type of game he and I spent a lot of time talking over the last day or two about just the mindset he needs to put himself in and what we need from him on the defensive end. And I thought that was like really evident tonight. It's probably his best game all season, just from picking up the ball in the backcourt, like being active, being aggressive. And, I had a feeling like he was going to have a really solid game tonight to build into Saturday night.
And just lastly, you'll be hoping now to be able to string consecutive wins together for the first time this season. It's a chance to obviously do it for the first time at home, and I'm sure you're looking forward to that game on Saturday.
Oh, it's biggest game for us of the season. At this point, we've put ourselves in a position where, we're right in the middle of the ladder, and Sydney's had a tough start, so they're going to come in with a real edge and urgency. There's no doubt. I mean, they are, one of the benchmark clubs in this league, and, to have them here, at the Brisbane Entertainment Center on Saturday night, like, we'll have a great crowd, and we're really looking forward to, like, that opportunity to compete.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All good.
Thanks, gents.
Appreciate it.